Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Central Regional Advisory Council meeting. This meeting is being held in person at the Springville Division office and is also being streamed live on YouTube. This public forum allows you to express your opinions and ideas on wildlife management in our state. This RAC considers your feedback on the proposals before us today and reports them to the Wildlife Board. The Wildlife Board, not the RAC, is charged with setting wildlife policy for our state. We all have ideas and opinions about what is best for Utah's wildlife. It's why we're here today. We encourage those who want to express their opinion to fill out one of the comment cards, one of these if you want to make a comment. Comments at today's meeting should be focused on the topics listed on the agenda. Unrelated comments will not be heard today and should be sent directly to the DWR or RAC and board members for consideration at another time. We expect those in attendance to respect the people who speak, especially those who hold views that don't align with their own. Respectful behavior facilitates efficient meetings where RAC members can listen, digest, and address the concerns, ideas, and proposals being presented. Disrespectful behavior will not be tolerated, and those who engage in it will be asked to leave. Lastly, please help reduce distractions during the meeting by putting your phone on silent, and if you need to take a call, we ask that you step outside, please. At this point, I think we'll introduce the RAC member. I would like to recognize a few of the RAC members online. We'll have them introduce themselves. Let's go John, Tyson, Jim, and Josh. John.
Yeah, hey, I'm John Ziegler. I'm a non-consumptive wildlife watcher.
Tyson.
Tyson Skeen, represent the public at large.
Thank you. Jim.
Jim Schuler, watchable wildlife.
And Josh.
And Josh Kays, representing sportsmen.
Excellent. And then those that are in person, we'll start with Kellen.
Yeah, I'm Kellen Heyer, representing agriculture.
Drew Eline, Forest Service.
Braden Shepard, agriculture.
Josh Greenhall, sportsman.
And I'm Brock McMillan, sportsman as well. I'd also like to acknowledge that Gary Nielsen would like to be here, but he's currently traveling to the WAFWA meeting to represent the state of Utah, so would like to excuse him. Oh, I didn't call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock. It's in order. Let's see. Would also like to recognize Chad Wilson and Darren DeBluis, who will be here today to discuss the recommendations that they're making. At this time, I would call for an approval of the agenda and past minutes.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, we have an approval in a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay. Now I'll give a brief update of the last board meeting. There was a motion to ask the division to look at Antelope Island Memorandum of Understanding and adjust both the season dates and the hunting structure. And that motion was to be placed on the action log and it passed unanimously. There was a motion to approve the 2025-2027 hunt tables and season date revisions as presented by the division. That motion passed unanimously. There was a motion to approve the Book Cliff Spice Management Plan as presented by the division. That motion passed unanimously. And there was a motion to approve the R657-42 amendments, natural disaster relief as presented. And that motion passed unanimously. There was a motion to approve the CWMU and landowner permit recommendations as presented by the division. That motion passed unanimously with one recusal. And then there was a motion to accept the Blackhawk CWMU and Hiawatha CWMU variance recommendations as presented by the division. And that motion passed unanimously. Any questions about the last board meeting? Okay, we'll turn the time over to Danny to give us regional update.
All right, thanks, Brock. My name is Danny Summers. I'm the regional supervisor for the central region here in Springville. excited to give an update of what we've got going on this time of year. It's a busy time of year, as it always is. From our wildlife section, this last month has been really busy with pheasant releases all over the region, and we've had employees from all of our different sections helping get pheasants out onto our WMAs for the public. We're wrapping up deer classification right now. Our biologists are out classifying deer, and then we've swung right into our capture season, where we're capturing and collaring deer and elk in the Manti unit. The Nebo unit will be on the Ochre unit next week, and then the Stansbury unit's coming up. So anybody we'd love to have you out if you're interested in coming out to one of our capture events, if you want to see how that works and what we do there. We're also conducting winter camera traps out in Ibopaw for pygmy rabbits to determine how our populations are doing out there with some of the historical records that we have. The aquatic section, last month I gave an update that we had just finished our sampling on the lower Provo River, and we have some of that data compiled now. And fish are doing well there in the Provo River. We have on average about almost 4,000 brown trout per mile. We have 4 different sampling sites within the lower Provo, from below the dam, Deer Creek Dam, to the mouth of the canyon. And there's a good number of those. 17% of those brown trout are over 15 inches. There's also some good opportunity for trophy whitefish at some of these locations, especially higher up the canyon. We have a lot of good whitefish there. And some of the flows at the mouth of the canyon, we've helped secure water to keep it in the river there near the mouth of the canyon, is helping keep fish populations there right at the mouth of the canyon. Our aquatic section also went through a process recently. This year was our turn for some of our blue ribbon waters up for review, and all of the waters that have been designated as blue ribbon waters were reconfirmed as blue ribbon. That's the lower Provo, the middle Provo, Deer Creek, Jordanelle, and Strawberry. And also right now we have staff working on our proposals for different habitat and access improvements, working on a feasibility study on fishing jetty at Utah Lake. We're also working on some plans at Community Lake or Lake Hill, which is in Ephraim Canyon, about dredging out that pond. Canyon View Pond in Spanish Fork also is being considered to be dredged out to improve habitat for fish there. And then Jordanelle and Deep Creek and Deer Creek, we're looking at putting some habitat structures in there to improve fishing, and these all go through a process of to receive funding through the Habitat Council or the Watershed Restoration Initiative and other funding sources. The habitat section is kind of wrapping up our habitat improvement projects this time of year. Finished planting about 143,000 shrub seedlings on different private or Forest Service, BLM, state and private lands, help improve habitat for deer especially. We completed a prescribed fire of about nearly 5,000 acres on the south end of the Sandpitch Mountain Range, and also completed over 1,000 acres of aspen enhancement on Mule Deer Summer Range and the 12 Mile Canyon and at Strawberry Ridge as well. The outreach section, a couple of weeks ago, we met on November 19th with our public deer meeting, where we're talking about how to grow herds and working together with the public. And we recorded that meeting and have sent that out through email to everybody that lives and has had a tag here in the central region. And that video is available on YouTube, and some discussion on what the division is doing for deer and some public feedback there as well. At our Manti Meadow WMA, we've secured a walk-in access property that neighbors the wildlife management area that's in Sanpete County. That increases the opportunity for upland game and waterfowl hunting to have some adjoining property to our wildlife management area. We're also recruiting volunteers to assist with the Audubon Christmas bird counts that are coming up that in Provo. That will be later in December, around December 20th, and in Heber on January 3rd. You can sign up there at the audubon.org website. And then we're planning an ice fishing seminar next month, January 13, here in the Springville office, where one of our sport fish biologist, Tyler Robinson, will present that. Our Division of Law Enforcement partners have been busy. We've had a case, and the photo here shows this Springville case where we had a group of individuals that were illegally shooting deer with archery equipment in town, in residential areas and fields around town, and they've been finally been charged, and there's quite a number of deer. Is a really good case that our guys have done there. Officer Stewart is finalizing an investigation regarding hunters who killed multiple deer using others' tags. We've also had some issues with hunters neglecting different season closing dates and not paying attention to whether or not they're in the right area and on the extended archery unit, and had a couple bucks seized for that. Waterfowl season is also busy with and our officers are patrolling, looking for violations there. Wanted to mention here at the end of the year, we have a couple of employees that are retiring that have been stalwarts here in the central region for 30 plus years. Morgan Williams started out in the hatchery and eventually became our maintenance specialist here for the region. So he's been taking care of our wildlife management areas. And I wish I had the number of guzzlers he's built, and he's maintained all our guzzlers. He's been a huge part of what we do and working for wildlife. Ron Nielsen is our sport services coordinator, keeps everything running here in our office, and it's been a great employee and a great friend for all of us. We're excited for them to be able to reach this milestone in retirement. That's all I had, and I can take any questions if there are any.
Any questions for Danny? Excellent. That moves us to our our first agenda item that we have. So I'll invite Chad to come up. This is an informational item, the Utah Cougar update. There was a presentation online. Hopefully we all had a chance to watch it. Maybe Chad could give us the 3 highlights.
That's all the slides. I only had 3 slides. No, so just one was population trend. The cougar population is trending down, but still in a spot where we're comfortable. We have seen that for growth rate, we have been above 40% female harvest over the last 5-6 years. So that's why the population is trending down. And we're just tracking the harvest type by type. So whether it's footholds or traps or hounds or spot and stock.
How do you know it's trending down, Chad?
Just studies have shown that if it's a 40% or more females in the harvest, that will be a declining population. So if it's less than 40% female in the harvest, then it's increasing. So just that's based off of studies.
Okay. We'll turn the time over to Danny to summarize the online comments.
We didn't have any online comment on this item.
Okay. Questions for Chad from the RAC? Go ahead, yeah.
Can you remind me what the estimated population was?
Yeah, and when I say this number, just keep in mind that when we do cougar populations, cougars are very difficult to count, maybe even impossible. So when we do these, we do a population reconstruction model, and what's more important than the number is the trend. So over time, we can track the trends and seeing whether they're going up or down. With that being said, it's 1,079.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, hey Chad, thanks for presenting the data, the population data. So it seems that the trend is indisputable over the last several years. If you look at perhaps what 18 to 24, 2018, 2024. So the take-home message, as I look at the data, is that the cougar population is declining fairly precipitously. And two independent metrics support this: the lower harvest numbers and the lower population estimates. And Lambda reflects this as well. So the trend seems pretty indisputable. What can DWR do about this, and what are they going to do about this?
Well, currently, as you know, the statute changed, law changed that made it so if you have a hunting license or combination license, you can hunt cougars. So we're going to continue to track the harvest. They do have to check them in. So we're going to keep tracking that. And if it gets to a point where we feel like it's not going to be a viable population at that point, we have relationships with the legislature and would go to them and say, we might need to change something and see if we can change that law to help us out.
Given the current data, does DWR plan to do that?
Not at this time, no. If we look at it over a long period of time, we are back. I mean, we were at these populations in 2006-ish. So we've had this low of a population before that grew. As of right now, we're not super concerned. We'll keep monitoring it. We'll keep seeing, but yeah, right now we're not going to approach them with that.
Got it. I understand. One other question for you is, do the population estimates take into account other sources of mortality, like roadkill, sanctioned depredation kills, disease, and most importantly, I think, unreported harvesting due to HB 469?
Yeah, it's like I said, cougars are really hard. I don't know that we take into account all of those. Some of those numbers, we don't know what those are, right? But I think what we do see is when you have a harvest and you have a certain amount of harvest, that we can have the confidence that there's a certain amount out there. So that, yeah, that's based off of the age classes of the lions when they're harvested.
Do you think the lowest, but this is my last question for you. Do you think the lower harvest numbers is a reflection of less cats being killed or less people reporting the kills?
There could be a combination of a lot of different things there. We had somewhat of a mild winter. It's harder to harvest cats in the mild winters. If it is lower population, the easier spots where people generally hunt them, there could be less in those easy spots. So there could be just a multiple reasons why the harvest was lower last year.
Okay, one of which could be that there are fewer cats out there. Is that right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, thanks, Chad.
Yep.
Go ahead, Jim.
Chad, excellent presentation as per usual. So assuming that we have fewer cats, and it makes sense that we do, when would you expect to see the deer population rebound? Because that was a major reason for the change in the mountain lion removal process. Is that should we see that in 3 or 4 years? I know it's multifactorial and weather dependent, yada, 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 but this is a major, decision for the purpose of, helping our deer herd. When would you anticipate seeing those numbers objectively to go back to the population to say, hey, it worked, here's what we're doing?
Yeah, I think you kind of answered it in your question. Is like there's so many factors in the deer harvest that it's hard to say in this amount of time. There's just too many factors. I mean, if everything else played out perfect, then I think within a couple of years you could see a big increase. But I mean, there's a lot of ifs in there. Is like, what habitat are they in? What's the winter like? Is there drought? Was it a heavy winter? Like, there's just so many different factors. That is something that we are looking at, so we will track that, and hopefully that's something we can answer sooner than later. But we will track.
May I ask Brock the same question?
I'd say when it rains.
Okay. Thank you.
I think the population is growing this year, so we'll see when all these classification numbers get summarized. JT, go ahead.
Hey, excellent presentation. I had a question just because I don't know. It seems like there could be an opportunity at a population estimate kind of capture with DNA where they do have to turn these animals in. Has that ever been looked at? And I'm sure, you know, I've read of some ways where you can use that DNA testing to establish maybe potentially better, not just population levels, but also genetic diversity. And, you know, where you don't really need a license or anything, that could potentially be something that we look at in the future as far as trying to fund it with, you know, maybe bringing back a tag or something like that. But just out of curiosity, have we ever looked at maybe trying to use DNA testing for population estimates?
I don't know if that's been looked at in the past or not, but I can say like it's not been on my radar. I've been in the job now for 5 months, so
Yeah.
But for sure I'll put that on my radar and look into that. Sometimes I know I was going to make it so Darren didn't have to come up, but he came up.
I was trying really hard not to too. We actually have a paper that should be coming out soon about looking at genetics from a USU study that was done in sort of the northern and central part of the state, and we actually we took DNA across the state, and it does look like there might be a north-south sort of variance. That's kind of where we are now. So we have looked at that. There's also a current study that just finished their field season this summer that's looking at better methodologies to estimate cougars, bears, bobcats, a lot of different species that are difficult. They're looking at a lot of different methods. One would be hair snare, which would be DNA based, camera traps, scat detection dogs. So they're taking scat using DNA. So that's kind of all in the pipeline. That study is also a USU study, and they're just getting ready to start crunching the numbers and see if they can make some recommendations, because it would be nice to have a better estimate. But yeah, thanks, Chad.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the RAC? Any questions from the public? If you have a question, come up. Questions only, not comments at this point, but direct your question to Chad. Yep. And they state your name, who you represent, and ask them your questions.
My question for you is, we're talking about the cougar decline right now, and it's going down, but I haven't heard any mention of the 6 units that were hiring professional trappers to kill the lions off of and try to decimate them. So my question is, can you give us some information on that?
Yeah, I can probably give you some information on that. I'm not 100% sure if all the details are finalized, but the concept would be that there's 6 different units where we're going to see if we're really hard on predators, specifically cougars, if that will help in those units rebound the deer population. So the 6 units are ones that have consistently had high cougar mortality on our collared deer. And studies have shown that potentially can suppress a deer population from growing. So I think that's probably going to be at least a 3-year study, probably a 3-year. I think that's what we're looking at is 3-year.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Okay, yeah, come on up, state your name, ask your question.
My name's Jaden Tuckett. I just have a question in regard to those traps. If they're lethal traps and a hound gets caught in it, right, and then dies, who's responsible for that? If the hound is injured or dead, or how does that work? Is that something that the state's going to pay out? And then, you know, if it's a dog that's worth a lot of money or not worth a lot of money, who decides that? There's a lot of concern with it being a lethal. So
Yeah, and I think the answer right now would just be that it's one of the risks, I guess, of being out there. Yeah, unfortunately, everything we do has some risk to it. So I think that's currently where it's at. But I know there's conversations going on, right? So the law was passed in 2023. I think at that time we said give us 3 years to look at things. So yeah, I mean, that potentially could be something that we look into and see if we can make some modifications there. Because we definitely don't want that to happen, right? Like,
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I'll bring it back to the RAC for comments. Any comments from the RAC? We have comment cards. Okay, we have no comments from the public either on this item, so I'll bring it back to the RAC for discussion.
No, I think since it's an informational item, Chad, I think I'd like to kind of keep hearing these. It's good to have these trend updates. And, I think it's helpful to know the methods too, right? Because there could be a lot of different ways to do this, a lot of different biases. I was thinking of, there's areas where there's probably a lot of refuge that we're not getting harvests from. And so it could change the data if you started saying, hey, we're going to do a statewide population trend. But yeah, they're hard. Cougars are just hard to monitor. So it's good to have the data and then your methods.
Any other discussion or comments for Chad?
Yeah, I would just, again, ask the RAC and the Wildlife Board to be cognizant, as I'm sure they are, of what the data shows. And that's what I would interpret as a pretty precipitous decline in the population of cougars. And, they've got their fans and they got their detractors, but there is a role for them in our state, in our environment. And, the data is pretty compelling that the population is dropping fast. And Chad, the 6 units that they're going to be bringing in pros to use lethal trapping for and see if it affects the deer population. Can you quickly read off what those units are?
I don't have them up in front of me, so it's Pine Valley, the Zion, Monroe, Boulder, and then Stansbury and the Wasatch.
And is the intent to basically attempt to remove all cougar from those units?
I think it's to remove as many as we can. Like, I don't think we even think we could remove all the cougars, but yeah, it's well, Brock's, I don't want to put you on the spot, so I won't. But yeah, like we're trying to remove as many of the predators as we can to see what effect predators have and if deer populations can rebound.
So, can I add? So John, the idea is we're doing all this and doesn't really have an effect on the deer. So are we wasting our time by doing something like this? So this is more of an experimental study that they proposed. I don't think everything's been finalized yet, that they proposed to see, can we affect the deer population or not? And that will inform predator management.
Thanks, Brock. And how long will that project be going on? Did Chad say 3 years?
3 years. I mean, there's always potential to extend it out, but I think the plan right now is for 3 years.
Okay. Well, again, I just caution everyone that, the population's dropping pretty fast. And with that, in those 6 units, it's only going to drop further. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Chad. No more discussion. We'll go to the next action item, which is the Utah fur bearer update by Chad Wilson. Any questions? Do you want to highlight your 3 highlights?
My 3 highlights. It's bobcat season dates and permits. So it's staying at 6 permits with no cap. And then it's just season dates. And then I guess it's maybe important to say too that it's going to be a combined digital guidebook. So that'll be as of January 2026. We're going to combine fur bearer, cougar, and black bear. So all of that's in one spot.
Thank you very much. Turn it over to Danny to summarize if we have any comments.
On this one, we didn't get any public comment.
No comments. So questions from the RAC. Questions from the public. Comments from the RAC. Go ahead, Tyson.
I guess this is a question that came up a little bit. What is the benefit in combining all three of those in the same guidebook, I guess? Like I guess as a comment, really the only thing I'm interested in personally on that is like bears. I don't have a desire to hunt a cougar. I don't have a desire to do fur bear. So there's probably people that have different interests. What's the purpose in combining those?
Yeah, so the digital only is for printing, shipping, labor, storage. But there's a lot of overlap in those three species as well. So just to kind of condense the overlap so they're all in one.
And Tyson, we know you're an attorney, so we just wanted to make sure you can read everything. Like you love that, don't you?
Does it come on tape?
Any questions or comments from the public? No comments, cards. So any discussion from the RAC? Since it's informational, thank you, Chad. The next item on the agenda. First action item is the Utah black bear recommendations. Chad Wilson. How about Chad, the 3 highlights?
The 3 highlights. This one actually have more than 3 slides.
Okay, it has more than 3, but.
So probably the biggest thing, the action item here is that we're proposing the Dolores Triangle hunt. So it was part of the LaSalle Mountain Unit. And we're proposing to carve that out. It'll match other big game species boundaries and to add 10 permits at the Dolores Triangle. So 2 spring, 6 summer, and 2 in the fall. It's just an area where there's bears, but people who hunt bears don't hunt that area. So kind of will push people to that direction.
Thank you. Turn the time over to Danny to summarize public comments.
Okay, we had one public online comment on this one. They indicated they somewhat agree with the proposal. Their comment was they'd like to see bears go to the same system, same way that we're managing mountain lions, cougars. They'd like to see more bears harvested and help both with deer and elk populations. Another option would be to split the draw into any bear or sow only hunts. That was the online comment.
Thank you, Danny. Questions from RAC members for Chad?
So John's got one too, and so is Tyson. Wow, this is popular, Chad. One of the questions that's come up from a few folks is just why don't we add more recommendations here? I think we just did the plan, so maybe just kind of for the public to understand why we're not doing more than just the Dolores Triangle.
Yeah, so last year Darren brought through a 3-year cycle. So we kind of locked in permits for those 3 years. And this is actually one that was right there. We were a little late to put this one on last year. And that's why we thought, well, maybe we can sneak that one in this year. But yeah, other than that, we're just going to ride it out for 3 years and then come back with new recommendations.
Thank you. Go ahead, John. First John, then Tyson.
Thanks, I appreciate it. The population numbers you've got stop at 2022. What's your best guess regarding what's going on with the population? It seems to be in a slight downward trend over the years of the data you presented. What do you think's going on over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I actually think it's probably declining the last couple of years. We've had pretty high harvests the last couple of years. So yeah, on the graph that we have, it's pretty evened out the last from 2020 to 2022. But just based off of the harvest of the last couple of years, I'd say it's probably declining a little bit since then.
And one other question. I noticed you give the percent females harvested in the black bear data. Why didn't you do that for the cougars?
I don't know. I guess that's probably just it, being honest, probably being new to the job, and maybe a potential oversight on my side.
Oh, no worries at all. It's just, isn't that a pertinent data point when looking at the predator population?
Yeah, it is. And I think the population trend usually captures that as well. So that's probably somewhat of my thinking behind it is you have a population trend. If it's growing, we're probably harvesting less females. And if it's declining, we've probably harvested a few more females.
Got it. Not to divert the attention from the bear discussion, but given the fact that population is decreasing, would you say that in cougars, it's probably a greater percentage of females being harvested?
In bears, that there's a
No, in the cougar population.
cougars. Yeah.
Okay, very good. I appreciate it, Chad. Thank you for your presentation. Well done.
Go ahead, Tyson.
Chad, I would like to ask this question. I think I understand the answer to it, but I want to hear it out of your mouth and not in my head. So let me make sure I understand the answer to this. Can you help me understand the purpose and the goals of the harvest objective on black bears?
Yeah. I might have to ask Darren to come back up on there. But let me take a stab at it, Darren. But if I get it wrong, I think on that, there's some areas where it's a lot of private land. In those areas, that's where we have our harvest objective. So with the private land, there's a lot of sheep herders up there specifically. So people that are ranching. So for them to be able to protect their sheep and for there to be harvested bears. How did I do?
Good guess.
Almost.
No. That's part of it. The one that runs during the big game seasons, we did the mule deer plan a couple of years ago, and that group felt like they wanted to avoid any kind of overlap between bait and hound hunting, especially during big game seasons and hounds. And so one of the strategies that we put into place a few years ago now is to allow a over-the-counter harvest objective permit. You know, if you've got a big game permit and you happen to see a bear, then you'd have potential opportunity to take a bear. There's also some earlier harvest objective hunts that the regions felt like, especially in areas where they had a lot of conflict, that they could just say, hey, go buy a tag and you can go hunt. You know, if you've got a bear in your cabin or hanging around that causing problems, they wouldn't have to issue or go through a special depredation authorization. They could just go buy the guy could just go buy the tag. So that's probably the majority of them and the reason why those are in place.
And I thank you, because actually both of those reasons were not things that I had in my mind. So I obviously didn't understand it perfectly. But maybe a follow-up question, the quotas that we set on harvest objective, are we saying that we're okay if like the population could sustain that type of harvest up to that point and we're good?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from the RAC? Questions from the public? Come on up.
My question is, we're on a 3-year cycle. There's no change in amount of tags, up or down. On this LaSalle Dolores Triangle split, we're taking a unit that's this big and we're taking a portion away. Why are we not taking that portion of tags out of the LaSalle tags? We're increasing permits on the LaSalle basically by over 10%, if I'm doing the math right. That number should come out because we're hunting the same bears.
Yeah, I think the rationale on that is all of those bears were getting harvested not on the Dolores Triangle. So those bears are already getting harvested on what is still currently the LaSalle Mountains unit. And we feel like that there's enough bears in the Dolores Triangle that really haven't been touched. That's the rationale behind that.
Okay, so my next question would be, do you feel like the LaSalle bear population is declining? As a hunter, we do. So my question, is it already declining and now we're adding 10% more tags to the same area?
I would say that this recommendation came from the Southeast region and the biologists down there. And I didn't have discussions of whether they felt like it was declining or not, but they did feel like it could sustain that harvest still.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions from the public? Yeah, come on up.
Jaden Tuckett, representing myself. The logic behind it seems that you're making the new area so that it forces hunters to go there to take care of problem bears, potentially. If I understand that right?
I don't think necessarily problem bears.
Or
but
not problem bears,
Yeah.
but just a bear population in a specific area, right?
Yeah, there's population there that we could get harvest that we're currently not.
So with that same logic applied to lions on those 6 units that are getting trapped, we could just bring tags back and force people to go take care of those?
Currently, we can't bring tags back because it's legislated that if you have a hunting license or combination license, you can hunt cougars. And so until that legislation changes, we really can't bring cougar tags back.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. Comments from the RAC? Go ahead, Tyson.
So this is a topic that's interesting to me, and I'm actually fairly new to this bear hunting world, if I'm being perfectly honest. Coincidentally, I spent a good portion of my day today with wildlife law enforcement officers here in North Carolina, touring the Cape Fear River on their boats and going about doing some things and doing some stuff there today. And I was picking their brains a little bit on the bear hunting here in North Carolina. If anybody's familiar with that, they got some big black bears here. And it's obviously a very different situation than what we have in Utah in regards to numbers and how they hunt them. But the reason why, like, Harvest Objective really has my eye, and I took a pretty deep dive into the numbers the last few days on at least what the DWR has published in regards to the Harvest Objective. And we are not even close. We're not even coming close to approaching meeting those quotas. In fact, there was only 2 units in the entire state that met the quota and were closed. No other unit was even over half of its quota statewide. And if my math is correct, we had 324 Harvest Objective harvestable bears this year, and we killed 90. And so we're not even killing a third of what they say the population could sustain. Now, I don't think we have to kill every bear. I think bears are awesome. I think we ought to keep bears on the landscape. And so I guess I really had a thought in mind to disrupt the apple cart, but I'm not going to do that, Brock. Don't worry. I believe even when I have opinions on things, I think that processes matter. And I understand that we're only a year into our plan, our 3-year plan. And so I think it's important to let those plans kind of play out. It frustrates me sometimes when we, in other species, in the middle of a plan, cut into it, start doing something totally different. But one thing I really would like to see is, I know that we're only allowed 1 bear tag in Utah. What's the harm in allowing somebody that had a limited entry tag buy a Harvest Objective tag and go kill a second bear? We're not increasing tags at that point. We're not increasing the amount of bears that could be killed, but you have people who want to go kill bears and you have people who don't. And so, or what's the harm in allowing somebody to buy 2 Harvest Objective tags? After they've killed their first, they could buy a second tag and go out and kill another bear if they have that desire to do so. And so I'm not going to maybe recommend any changes to tag numbers or anything like that, because I think that's a bigger issue we need to have a discussion on that is part of the plan. But I would like us to explore maybe, and I want to hear other people's opinions. What's the harm in allowing somebody to have a second bear tag under the current structure?
Thank you, Tyson. Good comment. No, the agenda orders changed. It went from RAC comments to public after, so.
After us?
Yeah.
You know, Tyson, I'll just let you know that I share that similar sentiment about the two bear tags. I've asked that same question, but once again, I'm good at the plan as is, and so I didn't want to get into that. On the question about the Dolores Triangle, maybe Chad, if you can, the comment was, you know, there's this decline happening, or there would be, you know, the perception is there's a decline. I don't know if the Southeast biologist could then just respond to that. It doesn't have to be today at our meeting, but at the RAC meeting, it'd be helpful to have them bring up the data there just so that we can see, is there an actual decline happening, or is everything just still fairly stable?
Yeah, I think that's good. When
That's
we
a
get to
comment
that
I
rack,
had.
have a comment. Yeah.
Any other comments from the RAC?
Yeah, Chad, just a quick question. Is the black bear population stable? I thought you mentioned it was decreasing.
So the chart that I showed was that it was pretty stable. But you asked me if I thought the last couple of years if it was still stable, and I think it's probably declining just based off of harvest numbers the last couple of years. So
right,
that
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that'll show out in the next couple of years.
So it's declining. Go ahead.
It's been pretty robust harvesting over the last couple of years. And what would I know you try to do it by unit, but what would be the objective, the population objective generally for the state, for the black bear population, do you think?
Look at Darren again. I don't know if we don't set a population objective for bears, do we?
But isn't that sort of part of the analysis when you do harvest objectives?
I'll let Darren answer it, so I don't.
So John, the plan, there are metrics in the plan that we manage to. One is % females. Depends on the harvest strategy for a unit. What are we trying to accomplish on the unit? Are we trying to have an overall decline in the population on that unit? Do we want to maintain level, or do we want to grow? And then so there's kind of there's a different objective based on what the bear population objective for the unit is. So when you look at it statewide, all of those things are going on in units across the state. I think definitely we probably saw some declines due to drought, you know, in the last couple of years, especially in the southern part of the state where we have most of our bears. And so the population is not part of the plan because of what Chad said before about the difficulty in counting. And we are trying to come up with some methodologies to do that. But we're going to manage to those population objectives on a unit by unit basis. And we do it on a 3-year cycle. So at the end of this cycle, we'll look unit by unit. What's the objective of the management? And that could change. And if it does, then we see how it aligns with the metrics. Adult bears over 5, adult males over 5, and females in the harvest. If those fall within those plan parameters, then we make adjustments to permits or quotas based on that. So that's a long-winded answer, but that's kind of how it works.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Darren, and I understand that. I guess my point that perhaps I could be more clear on it is, if you really don't know, haven't gauged the population of the black bear over the last couple of years, and you think they probably declined, it just seems like it might be wise to perhaps be somewhat conservative in the number of tags you put out on them until you get a better handle on the current population. Just a thought.
So to follow up on that, Chad, you said it's declining because we've harvested more bears. Are there more females? Well, I mean, what's telling you that it's declined? Like in deer, when we harvest more deer, it's because there's more deer. But you're saying we're harvesting more bears because there's less.
Yeah, and so it is, and maybe I shouldn't have speculated in the first place, but it is just, like I said, it will bear out over the next couple of years. Yeah, and I just said bear out, and that wasn't on purpose. But yeah, we will monitor that That was a speculative guess on my part, and maybe I shouldn't have speculated on that.
Any other comments from the RAC? We have several public comments on this. When your name's called, come up, state your name, who you represent. You'll have up to 3 minutes to comment. And at 3 minutes, if you're still going, we're going to stop you and move on to the next person. So the first person is Hunter Lovelace, followed by Chet Young.
Hunter Lovelace, representing the Utah Houndsman Association. We're just concerned about why we're adding a new unit on the first year of the 3-year cycle, the current bear cycle, as an addition to 10 more tags on an already declining population has been noted. We just asked to wait until the next cycle, 2 more years, I guess it would be, or take the 10 tags from the already LaSalle unit and just jump it over to that new unit they're proposing. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chet Young, followed by Sadie Young. No? Okay, Chet Young. Followed by John Bear.
Chet Young, represent myself. Tyson, I got a few things for you. It seems like you like to study a little bit on this harvest objective. One of my things would be look at like the Wasatch West. It was harvest objective a handful of years ago. And the first year it hit objective, second year it hit objective. Then the numbers started to decrease as the bear population dropped. So I would ask you maybe to, when you're doing your research, the units that aren't hitting objective or even coming close, how many years have they been on the harvest objective? Because the Wasatch West, this is the first year it's back on harvest objective, and it did hit objective. Just a little background from the last 20 years of following this, maybe. And then the last time the bears come around and made this 3-year cycle, there was a bunch of units that were on the spectrum of reducing tags, and they weren't reduced due to the predator management that we're trying to do now. We've heard here tonight that the population looks like it's declining. So on the Dolores Triangle, I would still ask that them 10 or so permits come out of the LaSalle permits. I have no objection of splitting the units, making it easier, forcing some people on there, but I feel like them numbers should come off of the LaSalle. It just seems like if there's a reason to increase bear tags, we jump all over it. If there's a reason to decrease them, we turn a blind eye. So I'm asking you guys, thank you.
Thank you very much. John?
John Bear, just represent myself and my wife, who is, I'd bet any amount of money has killed more bears than anybody in this room and probably all of us put together. So it drives her crazy that early in the spring, she's got to drive to Montana and Idaho to get an over-the-counter bear tag. When we have hunts going on, I've seen a few fist fights between bait hunters and houndsmen. Probably been on both sides of those. Never had a problem with an over-the-counter spot and stock hunter. I think there's a lot of opportunity that we could put out there. If you want to put it on a quota, you're worried about how many bears, that's fine. But if somebody wants to buy a bear tag and go on the mountain, you know, the end of April, start looking for a bear, I think we ought to let them do it on these units. I don't think we need to. I was talking to Chad, and the unit I live on right here on the Nebo, we got to wait till July. Let's do it in the spring. Let's do it early. Ain't hurting a thing. Put a quota on it if you're worried about how many they're going to see, but let people buy a permit and go on the mountain with their glasses and their gun and look for bears. You're not going to kill very many. If you do, if you're worried about it, put a quota on it, but let's let people go hunt. Thank you.
Thank you, John. So I'll bring it back to the rack for discussion. Maybe I'll start. Several people have expressed concern with this Dolores Triangle. I have similar concerns. I mean, we just approved a 3-year plan and we fought to get that 3-year plan. Before it was every year, and we said, let's put something in place where we don't have to have this fight every year. We only have to have it every 3 years. And then the very first year we come in and say, let's add another hunt. And so I'm a little concerned with it myself. Go ahead, JT.
Kind of took the words out of my mouth a little bit. I don't know. I don't know that it being an additional 10 maybe is going to make that big of a difference, but I do support, though, a smaller unit size. I think that it just gives you more data points. And I do think it does push hunters into an area where you can collect more information, which I think is a good thing. But I do kind of side with you, Brock. We did it for a reason. And if that means that then we take those 10 tags out of the LaSalle unit and put them on there, just so we're not changing necessarily the number of bears, we're just trying to maybe spread the hunters out a little more and try to get more data. I feel like that's a good thing. I've been on that hunt a couple times, and I wouldn't say that I felt like it was cramped, but there was definitely, there was a multi-season tag, so we got to hunt quite a few of them. And we did run into other hunters quite often, especially during the pursuit portions. So overall, I mean, I support the unit, and I guess I don't know if I support the 10 tags, the 10 additional, or if we should take them out of the LaSalle.
Thank you, JT. Tyson.
As I stated in my comment earlier, I'm kind of with you guys in regards to honoring the spirit of the plans. I think, like I said, I get really frustrated when we got a mule deer plan, and then a year in, all of a sudden we're making these big changes, or the elk plan, or anything else, right? And so I can appreciate having that. But it does seem to me, and maybe Chad can answer this, it does seem to me that none of the harvest is coming out of that area in the Dolores Triangle. Is that what everybody else understands? Is that we haven't seen actually any of those bears getting killed?
Yeah, that's what our biologists report, is people just in general don't hunt the Dolores Triangle part.
And so yeah, I'm with you, all of you who have said honoring the spirit of the plan, and that really is why I'm tempering some of my thoughts tonight. I will be on the rack still when the bear plan comes up, and so you can plan to hear from me more then. But for tonight, I'm tempering some of my thoughts, because I do think it's important to honor kind of the spirit of these plans that people work hard on and get approved. And then we see if they work, and if they don't, then we change. And so that's my thought.
Thank you, Tyson. Other discussion from the, John, do you have something?
A wave. I wonder if it was a wave or a stretch. Was that a stretch, John?
He put his arm up on the couch.
Just a stretch, guys.
All right. Okay. I'm going to say the same thing as a little bit of JT and Brock here. I kind of felt the same thing as far as the plan. I remember we had a lot of discussion of let's just get this plan in place for 3 years and let it play out. So I'm kind of in that same boat. I also support John. When the plan came out, I was like, why don't we just do more, harvest objective and just do them. And then when you hit your quotas, you shut it down. My opinion didn't matter at that time. And maybe we wait another 2 years. I don't know. I'm in the same boat as let's give opportunity. And if we're meeting our goals, we move on. But on this unit issue, I'm kind of leaning towards, and I'm not ready for emotion yet, but I just want to discuss it. I'm kind of leaning towards, usually I'm the guy that's like, let's just trust the biologist. Let's not change anything. But I'd almost like to go with, let's create this Dolores Triangle unit, but then move all or some of the tags from LaSalle for the next 2 years, or just, until the plan renews. That's kind of where I'm leaning. I don't want to be the armchair quarterback. I would have told Kalani Sataki to do some things differently on Saturday. So I better not be
like win,
like win the game. Yeah. So I don't know. That's just my thoughts.
Any other discussion? I mean, I kind of, I mean, I trust Ian, the biologist down there, but I remember how hard it was to get this 3-year plan cycle approval. And I just like honoring it. If there's no more discussion, I would entertain motion or motions. We could make motions to ask the board to put on the action log, like over-the-counter tags with a harvest objective and not change anything here, but have them consider it. We could ask them to get the biologist in to talk about the LaSalle unit, whether you take the 10 tags out or you take 7 tags out because you don't want to take 10 off the LaSalle, or we just add the 10. But I would like more information from the biologist. Isn't that Ian Montgomery, that to understand a little bit more about that system? Go ahead, Tyson.
I have a motion that I want to make, but it's not on the Dolores Triangle. I want somebody smarter than me to make that motion. So can I wait until after we do that, and then I have a second motion to make?
I'll make one.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve the division's recommendations as presented with a new unit and the 10 tags, conditional upon the biologist presenting to the, I don't want to say the board, but I'll say the board at this point, saying that there won't be any impacts to the actual, sorry, that's a terrible motion. There will be impacts, but no significant declines is the term I'm using. Significant declines to the LaSalle unit's bear hunting opportunities. Does that work? Does that make sense?
So it's fine with me. Do you want to restate the motion?
Yeah, so basically we're going to go with the recommendation as long as the biologist says that there's not going to be significant impacts to the hunting opportunity and the bear population on the LaSalle Mountains. Is that?
Asking them
To speak to that issue.
But so we have a motion. We don't have a second yet.
Second. I'll second.
A motion and a second. And basically the motion is that we approve the division's recommendation as presented, but we ask that the biologist present information on the bears of LaSalle to discuss the impact on the total population. Any discussion on the motion? Then I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Those opposed? So the motion passes 7-1. Tyson.
No, I'm ready to make my second motion now.
And the motion passed 7-1.
Yep.
Josh, before we go to your motion, Tyson, Josh, will you maybe clarify so I can present to the board your objection to the motion?
I think the problem I have is that we're adding tags. Maybe not in the process I would like to see them added. I think I'm okay with it if we were to have taken those out of that previous unit. And I understand I'm not overlooking the idea that those hunters weren't taking those bears from that area anyway. But I also don't feel like we've been presented with any type of population estimates. I mean, we had bears that moved from on public land on the property through private land and into Colorado over like the course of like a day period when we were there. And so to say that it's not the same population, I don't know. And maybe it isn't. I just didn't get presented any information here that I would make that call and add more tags to this unit.
Thank you. Thank you, Josh. If I would have had to vote, I would have probably voted against, just because I think the plan was made. I don't care about the new unit, but I don't like adjusting tags mid plan. But okay.
Yeah, Brock, I'm gonna reconsider, since we're still open for discussion. I'm gonna change my vote to a no. I think
Josh, 6-2.
Josh's points were well stated, and your concerns are well stated.
So thank you very much, John. So this motion now passes 6-2. Tyson,
So I want to make a motion and I want to talk about this 2-bear tag. And I think that we can do this and still honor the spirit of the plan that's in place. So I'm not asking for any more tags. I'm not asking us to reconsider tag numbers, permit numbers, quota numbers, or anything. But I want to make a motion to ask the wildlife board to approve that hunters can have up to 2 bear tags a year instead of just the one. So if somebody has a limited entry tag, they can go buy a harvest objective tag after their season. If they buy one harvest objective tag and they shoot a bear, they can go buy a second tag. If they want. I don't know how many people want to do that, but that's my motion, to ask the wildlife board to approve allowing hunters to possess 2 bear tags each year. Up to 2.
Thank you, Tyson. We have a motion on the table to ask the wildlife board to approve that hunters could have up to 2 bear tags in the same year, or the same year. That motion's on the table. Do we have a second? So that motion fails for lack of a second.
Well, that's a buzzkill.
I'm with you, Tyson, but I think I want to also stick to the whole plan discussion of, I think it's what we keep talking about. If you would have said in 2 years to have a recommendation by the plan, I'm all in.
Oh, I promise you'll hear from me in 2 years on this, Braden.
So another thing that you could do here, instead of asking the board to change that, is ask the board to have the division look into the ramifications of such a decision.
I have a motion to ask the wildlife board to look into what the ramifications of allowing hunters to possess up to 2 bear tags per year would be.
I'll second that, Tyson, 100%.
Okay, so we have a motion with a second to ask the wildlife board to look into the ramifications of allowing hunters to have up to 2 bear tags per year. You have that? Awesome. Any discussion on the motion?
Just one, I guess, a question. Do we know, Chad, this is, these are 2 attorneys, but is it set by statute or is it by rule that the limit to 1 bear tag? Is that a statutory change or is it a rule change?
As you guys were talking about that, I actually texted Darren. He didn't text me back yet. He didn't have his phone. I'm like, I don't know if this is even legal. Do you know?
We can certainly make it legal if we need to.
Oh, I was Googling back there. My memory was that it's just rule, and I think that's right. I don't think it's in code. So the statute, so in other words, the board could change it if they wanted to. Yeah.
Okay, so
it can't be a 2 bear tag. It has to be 2 individual.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep. Any discussion on this motion? I personally like this motion because it's not changing anything, but it's asking people to start considering it. Is this a possibility? Seeing no other discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? And that motion passes 7-1. Would you like to provide a little input?
Not much, mostly just waiting to support DWR and their recommendations. But I do think it'd be good to learn. But
awesome. Thank you very much. Okay, excellent. The next agenda item is,
I got one more thing. Can we talk a little bit more about John's comment about adding the harvest quota and that type of deal? What's everyone's thoughts on that? Same type of thing. I'm not throwing this out there, but a motion to consider something in the
over
future.
the counter tags.
Over the counter tag. Yeah.
I would be fine asking the board to look into that idea as well.
I would support a motion if you did that. I would love a spring bear hunt that you could just buy a counter or buy a tag over the counter and go, even if it is very low success rate.
Okay. So I present to make a motion to the board to look at this in 2 years of the possibility of a spring bear hunt and some over the counter tags.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion on this motion?
And maybe Carolyn, just to clarify, you said within 2 years, do you want to have the recommendation ready? Yeah, that's what recommendation ready by the time the new plan's being looked at.
Yeah, that is correct.
I mean, I'm sure there's things associated with this motion that we're not thinking of. So I'd like to having them look at it and tell us what the problems are and convince us it's not a good idea or it is a good idea. Any discussion? Other discussion? Then I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion? All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? So that was 6-2. JT, did you vote?
Voted for.
Okay, 7-2. It passes. Same reason? And was it you, John?
Yeah, I voted no. I'm not in favor of a spring bear hunt. I think it's a particularly vulnerable time for the bears, and just not in favor of a spring bear hunt, just as I'm not in favor of bear baiting. I just think it's not a good thing to do, not good practice.
Thank you, John. I'll make sure that's presented. Okay, the next agenda item is predator control incentive amendments. Rule R657-64, Chad Wilson. It's a busy night for you, Chad.
Yeah, instead of going on a lot of rack tours, I have a lot of things on this rack tour, so I'll take that trade. Yeah, this is just a clarification. We had something come up that potentially we just wanted to clarify and make it so it was with code that predator harvest locations are protected under this rule, just to clarify it. So we had something that came up and it seemed like it was a little bit fuzzy. So we feel like this will align it with code.
Thank you. Any questions from the rack for Chad? John, go ahead.
Yeah, Chad, just in looking at what the memorandum that was in the packet, is this just having to do with coyotes?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Any questions from the public? No. We don't have any. Do we have any comments on this, Danny?
We didn't get a specific comment, but they did click the box. There's one person that clicked the box that they somewhat agree with the proposal.
Thank you very much. Comments from the rack? No comment cards? Okay, discussion or motion from the rack?
I motion we approve as presented.
A second.
We have a motion to approve as presented, seconded by Jim. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Okay, agenda item number 9, cooperative agreements for big game or turkey rule R657-74. Darren.
Okay.
3 highlights, Darren.
3 highlights. This is a really short one. Let me start by let's see if this is going to work here. I have one amendment to the presentation that I wanted to show you, and then we can get some highlights. So I have I have one slide. We want to make a very minor but significant change to the rule language under the definition of cleared and planted land. And the reason we're doing this is that there's a definition in our rules in the depredation rule, and we want to make sure it matches between the two. So we want to change the or, properties routinely irrigated or routinely mechanically manually harvested, to and. So it'd have to be both in order to qualify for one of these agreements. And then, yeah, so let me see. Go ahead and get out of that. 3 highlights. I don't know if there's that many, but one highlight. Sorry, I'm looking for my, told you I was old school. I can't find stuff on here. I guess probably the biggest highlight is that there's two things. One is that we've always had in our rules the potential to do what is called an easement in our depredation rules that would allow us to come into make an agreement with the landowner, provide payments annually in depredation situations. We've never implemented it. It's just not something that ever was done. As we discussed that, we decided that there's more of a population level potential impact to these kind of agreements, and they probably don't need to live in depredation. It could be something that's more general. And so what we're proposing tonight is a new rule that would allow these kind of cooperative agreements with landowners that own cultivated crops to work proactively to try and enhance populations. So right now our primary focus is mule deer and turkeys. There's potential for other species, but right now the intent would be a couple pilot program, landowners. But what we want to do is, there's probably a lot of options, but potentially just say, hey, we know you've got deer using your field. These deer have the potential to enhance the surrounding population, but in the case of depredation, you might be killing a lot of does because they don't want to, they're not tolerant of that. But maybe we could approach a landowner and say, hey, we know you're going to have deer here. Maybe we can buy your first crop. Maybe we can offer you a payment in lieu of taking those deer over a 3-6 year contract period. And so that would be the intent of this rule. And again, we'll try it out. We may need to tweak things, but this is basically the idea.
Thank you. Questions from the RAC? Yeah.
Have you kind of discussed any of this with private landowners? I'm just curious if this came from discussions and
yeah, so
even their want for.
We've been talking about this for a little while now. We have reached out, not to offer agreements yet, but just to kind of see proof of concept. Hey, what if we came in here and tripled your damage payment and paid you 3 times what you're getting every year that you're claiming in damage. This is just one example. And there's potential there. Not everybody's going to want to do it. Some landowners, obviously, it's just the principle of the thing. You're not going to want to do it. So we'll seek out partners that are willing, but that's sort of the idea.
And then also, do you anticipate this being more mule deer related, or have you seen turkey being quite a?
Turkeys can be, and it's sort of the same idea, but obviously mule deer are a really important species in the state, and we're doing a lot of things, but this is maybe one more arrow in the quiver that potentially we could use to try to enhance some populations.
Hey, Darren, one other amendment I caught there. You just have private landowners. There's a lot of times when the private landowner does not actually farm, and they've got a tenant on the land. And so in the definitions, you don't say private landowner or their tenant or lessee. And I think in a lot of cases, if I have a tenant, I'll take the money. The landowner's going to say, I don't care.
Right.
That's part of your risk of doing business. I think you'd get more incentive, more folks participating if they're a leaseholder.
That's
So that's just a suggestion that I guess, is that something you would be open to adding leaseholders?
Yeah, I think the spirit of it would be, I mean, what we want to do is try to enhance body condition or allow animals not to be killed. So yeah, a lessee, that I'd be open to that. Sure, we could do that.
Any other comments from the RAC? Comments from the public? Oh, go ahead, Kellen. Sorry.
Did I miss something, or was it like by application, or how would they get in partnership?
It'd be an approach from the DWR to a landowner to, solve a specific concern.
Before we ask for public comment, I forgot to ask to have the regional supervisor summarize the online comments.
Yeah, we had one person respond, didn't put anything specific, but they checked the box that they somewhat agree.
Thank you, Danny. We have one public comment, John Bear.
Thank you, sir. You'd think as much time as I spend behind the microphone, I'd know how to turn one on, but rookie. SFW strongly supports this action in these efforts by the division. If there's any way we can partner with landowners and make deer an asset instead of a liability, we're crazy not to do it. If there's any way we can come in and make any kind of payments to a landowner that might be suffering some crop damage and buy their last crop or their last cutting and leave it in the field to benefit the deer, and they agree not to, you know, have depredation deer removed, we need to explore that every opportunity we can, and we applaud the division for going this direction. I know that a lot of this came from our director, that this is pretty high on his list of things to explore and accomplish. I think Darren's done a great job, and Chad also, because those two basically just swapped hats here not too long ago. No idea why either one of them would want to do that, but I appreciate their efforts in that, and I really feel like this is a win-win for landowners, for sportsmen, and for the deer and the turkeys, and in some cases elk and, you know, other animals, so other species. So really appreciate the efforts by the division and all the landowners that have, you know, shown interest. And, you know, I think this is definitely something that everybody in this room ought to get behind. So thank you.
Thank you, John. Bring it back to the RAC for discussion. I would say I'm in favor of this. I think anything we can do, at least try it out and see how it works, and to support landowner support of having wildlife on their property is a good thing.
I would just agree that I think being proactive rather than, you know, reactive in these cases can be more beneficial too.
Go ahead, JT.
Yeah, similar comment with the being proactive. I like that component. I think for the most part, the big game has mostly been, you know, pushed wherever sportsmen can find opportunity, but I do see a lot of opportunity here for turkeys. You know, I've seen where turkeys have to go into the winter time, and we've had to go in and catch them, and there's a lot of mortality there. And I think if we could change that narrative, I think it could be a really big thing for turkeys, especially.
Thank you, Josh. Any other discussion? Go ahead, Brady.
No, I think I brought up the leaseholder. There's a situation that I'm very well familiar with deer that come off of the Wasatch unit on the property that's near a city center, and they get a lot of deer shot on it. That's not on the private landowner wouldn't take the money, but I think the leaseholder would. And so I'm going to throw out that we accept the recommendation as presented with the caveat that the division adds the ability to pay the leaseholder as well. That's my motion.
Oh, so that's a motion. We have a motion on the table.
Yeah, good.
You said you were, so that's something DWR would be.
Yeah, I don't think we even thought about it.
Okay,
So,
just
yeah,
an
I mean,
oversight.
it's a good motion for the board to consider, and we have time to look at that.
Thanks.
We need a second on this motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion from Ray and a second from Tyson to accept as presented with the addition of adding leaseholder, landowner or leaseholder to the definition. Any discussion on the motion?
I just have one concern about this. If we're paying for the crops, are they locked into how long they have to be in this program, or is it? I just had that one question. Sorry.
Yeah, our proposal would be, I mean, either party could back out at any time, but our proposal would be like a 6-year agreement with a 3-year review. So that's what we'd be shooting for when we approach folks. And again, we'll be initiating the offer. And so, and I'm sure we'll get some feedback, and maybe some folks will show up that we didn't think of, but typically, yeah. So that's the idea.
All right. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Excellent. Anything else that the RAC would like to bring up? If not, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.